headwinds. Oh, the headwinds. I know everyone in this room know a little bit about headwinds, be it tariffs, visa delays, funding issues, and that's what we're here to talk about. If there is one overarching theme, it is uncertainty, and that's what we've been chatting backstage. So let's get started with you, Marilyn. You recently had your conference in Los Angeles, and your numbers were down. Can you explain a little bit why?
Yeah, I think, well, as been much in the news, there's a lot of headwinds facing museums, from funding to censorship. Museums are unsure of what they can and can't do. Their federal funding has been cut or rescinded, and they're not sure where their corporate support is either. So we saw definitely softness in our attendance, and what we heard was that they just literally couldn't afford to send people to the conference.
Okay. And I know, Carine, you had a similar issue this year in Boston.
Yes, I had the same issue. Boston is one of our popular cities, popular markets for pharma and medical associations, and we usually draw a big number there, and it was a big dip for us going into the conference. And we did hear it's because approvals were not there, funding was not there, and so people were just hesitant to attend. Right. Conferences.
And we talked about the dip in international attendance in particular, and your dip was pretty substantial, wasn't it?
Correct. We have, a small percentage, about 8% international, and it dipped to maybe 2% or even maybe non-existent. A lot of our attendees or international attendees come from Canada, so that was a big challenge for them to travel to the US to attend our program.
And Marilyn, you had issues with visas.
Yeah, we absolutely did. China is one of the fastest growing museum markets, and we were expecting a very large contingent from China, and about 40% of them were able to get visas. And we also saw our museum expo vendors from Canada rescind their place on the floor. Mm.
We're going to bring this up a little. It's not going to be all depressing. But we are going to talk about tariffs now. So you gather 30,000 every year in Las Vegas every year, and your attendees are in the retail industry, which is getting hit particularly hard by tariffs.
Yes.
How has that impacted your conference?
Yes, I think that uncertainty is the name of the game when it comes to tariffs specifically. Our members are in the retail and real estate industry. They, Vegas in particular has a nice reputation of being like a tentpole of ICSC and an industry event, but we run over 100 events throughout the year that we have seen a softening, or I'll use your word, Carine, a hesitancy among people, just because they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. A line item for discretionary budget to attend events or to sponsor events, to exhibit, that had always been there and maybe hadn't been looked at, is now like, maybe we'll take a look at that, and we're going to put a pin in it, and we'll let you know 2 weeks before the event. Right. And so there's a little spike before the event gets underway, and some on-site registrations, but people don't know, and so they're waiting.
And that has been another trend, hasn't it been, late registrations?
Yeah.
Carine, you really experienced that this year, didn't you?
Yes. Because Boston is so accessible, we usually do have on-site registrations, but this year we saw a really big jump in on-site registration. And again, that is because of the hesitancy of individuals to register, and then late approvals as well, late funding. So all of that contributed to our late registration, and we were very grateful to work with our hotel brands and hotel partners to adjust the negotiated rate for these late registrations, and then we had to prep our staff for the influx that will be coming in for on-site registration. So yeah.
And Marilyn, your association is cultural institutions, so funding has been a real issue, hasn't it been?
Yeah, absolutely. Almost the majority of federal funding has been rescinded or put in place. We don't know if key institutions like Institute of Museum and Library Services or the NEA or the NEH are going to be funded again for FY26. So all of that's up in the air. And we know about 40% of museums in this country receive some level of federal funding.
How is that going to impact your upcoming conventions?
Yeah, everybody's been holding their breath. I just came back from a conference in San Francisco, was the Association of Science and Technology Centers, and their numbers were pretty steady. And I think that because there's so much uncertainty and chaos, that people actually are seeming to try to find the money because they need to be in community to solve some of these problems together. So we've also seen that, and so I'm hoping that our next conference is going to be in Philadelphia, and which is local. There's a lot of museums in that New York, Philadelphia, DC, even Boston corridor. They can just take the train down. Pittsburgh has a big museum community, so we're hoping we'll have strong numbers.
Okay. So another issue has been social. And Carine, we talked about the fact that you have some attendees who are not comfortable meeting in certain locations that don't go along with their social beliefs.
Yes, yeah, we've encountered a few attendees, not just a few, but more than a few, that have told us like they're disappointed if we're having a program in Texas. We have one coming up in Florida. So they let us know that they're disappointed because those states do not align with their social values, and their social values align with ours. And so we try to assure them that we will make sure to elevate the social mission and values that we have at NKF in these cities, and then implement them within the communities as well, right? Do CSRs, do work with the dialysis centers, bring in some kidney patients, work with the nephrologists within local hospitals. So things like that we try to implement within our conference for cities that are unlikable for our attendees. So.
I mean, we're so lucky to have 3 amazing association executives here from such different industries. So please, if you have questions, use your app, and we might have some time at the end to get to them. And so social is an issue, and then there's another headwind is definitely politics. You knew we were going to say the P word. So I know you, Jeanine, you had an issue where a speaker went rogue.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about this?
Unfortunately, yes, we have had speakers, once they get a mic in their hand, all bets are off. You don't know what someone's going to say, and it can be very awkward when you're live to curtail what they're saying. Luckily, we had some great senior leadership and some very good volunteer partners who defrayed the situation. But it's really led to us re-examining how we scrutinize our speakers and who we are giving a platform to, making sure that their values and what they're bringing to the table align with ICSC's mission, and making sure that we're there to elevate the real estate and retail industry, and that's what we're all doing. But we've had to institute a pretty robust speaker scrutiny process, I'll say, and then unfortunately it's led to increased security at events. So we've also reminded our member base of our code of conduct and what we're all there to accomplish. And we're a huge organization, and by and large, everybody abides, but there's always a few.
And I would assume politics is off the table as far as your speakers are concerned.
Yeah, there are some areas of our industry that bleed into politics naturally, but I leave that to our GPP team in DC to handle.
Okay. So what I'd like to really get out of this session is to offer some practical insights that our attendees can take away when it comes to navigating these headwinds. So do you have anything you can share? Like, where can you start? Because this looks like it's going to be the new normal for a while.
Well, me personally, with my annual conference, I schedule those 5 years in advance. So I am learning to add wording into clauses in the contract. For example, within the force majeure, I add epidemic, pandemic, health crises, to that, because that is very impactful for us at NKF. And also, I learned from another planner that there is a social responsibility clause that you can add to the contract as well. So adding these things to the contract is how I'm trying to combat it for the future, as I do, 5 years ahead of time. So.
And then I also found it interesting that you have an upcoming conference in Canada, don't you?
Yes, I do. I do. We recently signed a 2030 contract in Canada. And, you know, my executives were very hesitant to do that because they don't know what the relationship would be with Canada and how it is now. So it really was a big push for the Toronto team to come to us and present and let them know that the relationship with client are the most important thing for them. So it was a little extra effort on their part to convince my executives to book Toronto, but we did it. Be there.
So Marilyn, if you had one piece of insight you could share, what would that be?
Well, you know, we're a 120-year-old organization, and some of you may work for organizations that have been around for a while. And I think for us, what I'm really pushing the team on is we need to first of all, we need to make sure that we're building a conference that has a lot of value for the attendees. They're making a huge investment to come, and we can't, just because we're the largest museum conference in the world, we can't assume that people are going to come. And so what is our value proposition? What are people going to get out of it? Segmentation. With such a big conference, it's easy to feel lost in the conference, to feel like, oh, this conference isn't for me. I'm a small museum, I'm a rural museum, I'm a specialty museum, but really building in you know, those call to actions and that testimony from all types of museums and what they were able to get out of the conference, and all types of museum professionals. So that's what I'm leaning back on, is, you know, we want to be the most important, most riveting conference for a museum professional to come to, and make sure that they're really getting something out of it that they can take home and improve their practice.
Mm-hmm. So it's important to make everyone feel welcome. Mm-hmm. Okay, all size museums. And then in the green room, we were chatting about the fact that you're also promoting the fact that museums are great event venues, aren't they?
Yeah, so, you know, that's museums, it's a very complicated business. One of their income streams is rentals, and we have focused not only when we go to a destination, but also we have sessions on how do you improve that revenue stream for your museum.
And I guess especially with losing revenue, that's one way to pick it up.
Yeah.
So send your RFPs.
Yeah. Yes, there's 22,000 museums in this country, and almost all of them rent their spaces out.
Right. I was recently at an event at the Museum of Natural History. It was incredible. But I didn't want to network. I wanted to look at the exhibits. So, you know, you have that yin yang. What would be one actionable insight you would offer?
To piggyback on Carine's suggestion of looking at contracts, that is something that we have really, really dove deep into. Is it's going to sound like not at odds what I'm saying, but we haven't normally booked multi-year contracts. We can where we will where we can, but looking at doing that to kind of give our members confidence that we are going to be here and we're going to be creating spaces for you to come together and to network, and we're not going to be wishy-washy. Are we having an event next year? Are we? You know, so we are trying to book multi-year, but really, really looking at those contracts and building in really tight clauses so we can pivot very quickly if we need to. Okay. If the attendance is not there, if the vibe has shifted, so building in performance clauses, out clauses where we can change the nature and size of the event has been really helpful. And I think it's just about meeting our members and our attendees where they're at. We've heard from them. I mean, they show us how, by their behavior at events, and whether they're not attending events, not staying for as long. But for us, kind of taking a closer look at events that may have been very rinse and repeat, and seeing where can we deliver the same exact value, but be more nimble as an association to again pivot very quickly and make, you know, things that were 7-day events, maybe they're a 3-day event now. And so we're reducing the attendees' costs and travel and hotels and food, reducing our costs that we can pass along to them in terms of registration and all our other fees.
So the headwinds the industry are dealing with are going to change your conference.
Yeah, for sure. And we're also offering new product offerings, new event product offerings that we previously maybe had piloted in the past that didn't really go, and we've just kept with our calendar that has been tried and true. And now we're bringing back events that I don't want to say cater, but are more focused on millennials and Gen Z in the workforce because they behave differently at conferences than some of our older membership base. And a lot of what we've seen is them focusing on, more engaging tactile events, I want to say, but less focus on drinking and happy hour events, which is really interesting.
As
so
we
we've really
sit
had
at
to
the
pivot
City
that.
Winery.
Yeah, as I'm on stage at City Winery.
More activation.
More activations, yes. More face-to-face, daytime, morning events. They have very clear boundaries, I'm learning, on their work and personal time. And so events that are during the day and not after work, not focused on drinking.
So you can't pack the schedule with session after session.
Right.
Okay.
So we're doing pickleball tournaments
Wow.
at 9 a.m. instead of 7 p.m. happy hour events.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
How have your events evolved?
Well, my annual conference and most of my big scientific events are educational. So it's hard to add fun stuff to it. I try to do things different with, catering, try to add the city cuisine into our buffets, our meal times. With our larger conference, the exhibitors, pharmaceuticals really go all out. This year we had a pet pen, which was like the most popular thing. Excuse me, we had a wind machine, which is supposed to give you the stimulation of having dialysis. So it was a lot of fun things that the exhibitors brought in that really made the attendees really excited.
Definitely not pickleball.
Oh, no pickleball. No pickleball.
Marilyn, how do you envision your event evolving?
Well, interestingly enough, we past couple of years have had a health and wellness area where people can come do yoga. They can we had the silent disco and different things like that, just to give people an opportunity to not be sitting in a chair all day in a conference room. And we found that that's really popular. I think as one of the things that we're doing is because, again, we are a museum conference and we really partnering with our city museums to create really interesting events and showcase their offerings. So our conference does go all day. There's usually events in the evening. There's workshops that we ask the museums to put on, and we're even beginning to go outside of that and partner with the city cultural department on things like that isn't traditionally a museum, but we're going to Philadelphia next year. So we're looking at building in a mural tour because Philadelphia is one of the biggest mural communities in the country. And so expanding what we typically think of as a museum experience to a more community, based in the city type of experience.
All right, I can't help myself. What's your favorite museum?
Oh my gosh, I can't say that.
It's like who's your favorite child?
Well, I will say that my favorite exhibit, and this is, I worked at the Museum of Science and Industry as the director of marketing, and I opened the U505 exhibit, which if you haven't been there, there's actually a full German submarine in a building. And I was there when we built it and I opened it. And to this day, every time I go see that exhibit, I cry. Oh. It is just such a poignant story of the impact of World War II on the country and on the U.S. and the world, and how and we were lucky enough to be able to include them in the exhibit, these men that jumped on the submarine as it was sinking to save it. And their statues are and you can listen to their story of what they thought, what they were thinking as they jumped off their boat onto a sinking submarine that they thought could be booby-trapped to try to save it, to take the technology off of it so that they could, impact the war. But it's still stunning to this day.
On my bucket list. And since I'm totally off the cuff, Jeanine, what's your favorite retail store?
Oh, this is really putting me on the spot.
All right, let's take a question. You think. And
I'll think about it.
back
I'll
to
have
you.
it by the end.
So this was an interesting question, and this is for you, Carine.
Oh.
Are you, no, that's not it. With these types of challenges and impacts on conferences, how can or where do planners report? That's not it neither.
I think that was the first one.
All right, well, so with these kinds of challenges and impacts on conferences, how and where do planners report these impacts? Is there a way to get these numbers collectively?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I don't believe if there is, I am not aware of where us planners can report this. But I know talking to other planners also help, right? I'm part of PCMA, which is a meeting planner association, and we talk about this all the time when we get together, like, oh my gosh, I'm down 500, I'm down 600, and this is why, and that is why. Well, what did you do? Well, things like that. We talk amongst ourselves for solutions. I wish there was a place where we could document it, and then it goes out into, whoever needs to see it. I know there's like a tourism report, but not sure about the decrease in attendees for conferences. Maybe that's something we should start.
Well, that's when you turn to Skift Meetings to read all these articles.
Well, there
and
we
more.
go. Skift meeting. That's a good thing to start.
Thank you.
Yes.
So, Jeanine, this is for you. And it went away. It had to do with the workforce and how, retail is an area that's being impacted. Mm-hmm. And how are you dealing with workforce issues?
In the retail?
In your conferences and then in retail.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we're real estate and retail, and so we've got the developers who are developing shopping centers, and so, economic climate, of course, affects those retailers directly, whether they get their goods from overseas, tariffs-wise or not. But, I think it depends on the region of the country that you're in, and mostly we serve the US and Canada, but there are regions of the country where new shopping centers just aren't being built just by virtue of the fact that there isn't much more land, so it's a lot of redevelopment. So we've kind of, based our events and programming around that a little bit, and which we've been able to do for the past few years. Through our research, we have a very strong research aspect of ICSC too. But yeah, I mean, I think, again, it goes all back to meeting the attendee where they're at, and we're lucky enough that we hold enough events that I'm face-to-face, and I try to go to as many of them as we can to hear direct feedback, because, they're there and they'll tell you, and allowing a space for them to be very honest with you about what they need and what they want, because events aren't going to go away. We learned that during COVID, but we just have to be able to roll with the punches that keep coming.
And there's another interesting question. While navigating political readiness and consequences from executive government actions, how do you maintain an apolitical stance internally and in your external PR?
I would say that, so our association, organization, one of our pillars is advocacy, and we are advocating on behalf of museums, and we're advocating for funding, we're advocating for freedom to put on the types of exhibits, so we're fighting censorship, and so that's who we are, and we know that our research has told us that regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on, museums are popular. Something like 96% of Americans, regardless of what political party they sit in, believe that museums are important civic institutions and should be funded by the government. So those are our values, and that's our messaging, and we if you go on our website, you'll see where we stand as an organization and what we're doing at the federal and state level to ensure that museum funding continues.
Okay, that's beautiful. Yeah. And this is interesting too. As a result of all these headwinds, are you reducing your hotel room and guarantees for future events based on the current issues that we're dealing with?
Well, I'm conservative when I book my contracts anyway. And when you do book so far out, they do have an expectation of, a big block. But I try to increase it by 100, if that, just to satisfy my partners. But I do try to stay conservative. My conservative room peak is 1,700. And so if I go a little above, I'll do 1,850. And I mean, we pick up way more than that, but just to cover ourselves because of the uncertainty, whether it's 5 years out, 6 years out, I still, stay with the same conservative pattern.
And Jeanine, you're using multiple hotels in Las Vegas for a group of your size. How are you dealing with your hotel contracts?
Yeah, again, Vegas has been lucky enough to enjoy a very, steady and flat registration. Same with our New York show, which is our two biggest premier events. But for the smaller regional shows, we've been very conservative and as low as we can go, basically. But some of the natures of the nature of our smaller trade shows are that they're very regional, so people drive in, so we might have 4,000 people, and I might need 1,000 rooms, which is not a very attractive offer to a lot of hotels and convention centers. And so we're often, the last in line for an attractive piece of business for the city. So it's creating relationships with those cities, with the CVBs, with the locations that we're going and the destinations to say, hey, we're good for it, we're going to get the pickup, but I just can't sign it now and guarantee it. And luckily, we have a very, we have enough of a track record in most of the country and U.S. that we can afford that.
What's interesting is there's been so many articles about Las Vegas and how its leisure tourism is down, but next year conventions are through the roof.
Yeah.
And I interviewed Steve Hill, and he said, honestly, he believes 2026 will be the best convention year Las Vegas has ever had.
Happy to hear it. We'll take it.
So we just have a few more minutes. So if there was one more piece of advice you could offer about navigating headwinds, what would that be?
I mean, I say read your contract word for word. If it's not in the contract, it's not part of the deal. That's how I see it. So I try to add words, maybe they'll see it, maybe they won't, type of thing. And then I'll sign it like, yeah, here you go. That's just a little trick for me to use.
I'm going to remember that for my contracts.
But that's just I think the contract is everything,
So I guess in times like this, your contract is more important than ever.
Yes, absolutely, because that gives you the ability to pivot if you need to, right? I know that's a word that we use in exhaustion, but it's true, right? It gives you the opportunity to change it up if we need to go lower, if we need to move it to another year, another month. It gives you that ability to do so. So yes.
Marilyn, do you have a piece of advice?
Yeah, I think it's keep evolving your conference. Like, don't let it get stale. Like, what's new, what's different, how do people want to learn? I think folks were talking about the different generations in the workforce, what they like to do differently, making sure that you are meeting the needs of your attendees.
And Jeanine?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you're contracting, but also when you're sourcing, you can take a look at, you might have a space that can flex. So I might need 30,000 square feet, but I might need 10,000 square feet. So if I got this room that's got air walls and I can make this really intimate, if I only get 1/3 of the attendance that we were hoping to get, then it's not going to look like we're in this cavernous room. And then, again, to Marilyn's point, you just you have to evolve. You have to be ready to change with the changing, a younger workforce and not letting anything get stale.
Well, with these headwinds, with resiliency, we're all going to come out ahead. And I thank you all so much for joining me. This has been incredible. Thank you.